Time magazine has released its new Athlete of the Year. And once again, the headline name comes from the WNBA. Last year, the magazine honored Caitlin Clark. This year, the cover went to Las Vegas Aces star Aya Wilson. On paper, that sounds like a huge win for women's basketball. Wilson is a 3-time WNBA MVP, a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, and arguably the best player on the league's most dominant team. But the backlash that followed the Time feature was immediate, and it had very little to do with her resume. The issue is not whether Aya Wilson is an elite player. She is. The debate is over what was said about Caitlin Clark inside that article, how Wilson responded, and what the hard numbers show about Clark's impact on WNBA viewership and on the league's new media deal. For a lot of fans, this controversy has become the clearest signal, yet that a chunk of the WNBA establishment will never fully acknowledge what Clark has already done for the business side of the league. Why the Time magazine piece exploded. Time's profile went live on December 11th, 2024. In addition to walking through Wilson's 3rd MVP award and her standout performance in Paris, the article framed Caitlin Clark as almost singularly responsible for salvaging a league whose foundation was built by a mostly black player base. That single sentence touched every nerve. Using the word salvaging implies that the WNBA was failing, in danger of collapsing, before Clark arrived. It suggests that decades of work by black stars built the house, and Clark alone rushed in to stop the roof from caving in. That is a dramatic framing, and it was always going to provoke a response. Wilson's reaction inside the article is what really ignited the current debate. She pushed back forcefully on the idea that Clark saved anything and downplayed Clark's role in the recent explosion of interest. According to the piece, Wilson described Clark as accounting for about 5% of the league's growth. That 5% figure has become the lightning rod. Fans who watch the viewership charts week after week simply do not buy it. What the numbers actually say about Caitlin Clark and WNBA ratings. To understand why the 5% line hit such a nerve, you have to look at the real-world data. Caitlin Clark's rookie season started like a marketing dream. Indiana Fever games on national networks average around 1.78 million viewers. Massive figures by WNBA standards, and well above anything the league had seen in previous eras. Arenas around the country sold out when the Fever came to town. Local markets saw spikes in ticket demand, merchandise sales, and social media traffic. Then, in July 2024, Clark suffered a serious knee injury that limited her to just 13 appearances. The impact on viewership was immediate and brutal. Games she missed saw ratings collapse by roughly 48% compared with those she played. The Fever's average audience without her sank to around 394,000 viewers. That's not a small dip. It is a near free fall. For a media company or a league that lives off rights fees and sponsorships, losing almost half of your audience the moment one player disappears is a red flag level event. ESPN tried to soften that drop by adjusting its measurement methods mid-season, folding in additional streaming numbers and alternate platforms that previously were not included in the regular TV ratings. When you add those extra figures, you can technically say league viewership was down only 5 to 6% over a certain window. But if you stick to the original apples-to-apples traditional TV metric, the picture is obvious. The games without Caitlin Clark were nowhere near as valuable to broadcasters as the games with her. That goes far beyond 5%. Google Trends in the 2025 season. Supporters of Wilson's view have pointed to Google's search data for 2025 to argue that Clark's global impact is overstated. In worldwide most searched athletes rankings, only one WNBA player appeared inside the top 10. Sophie Cunningham at number 7. Clark was not in the top tier. However, that statistic comes with important context. Clark barely played in 2025. She appeared in just 13 games before knee problems shut down her season. For most of the year, she was out of the spotlight, not featuring in marquee events or playoffs, not giving post-game interviews, not creating highlight clips that travel worldwide. What matters more than one search trend list is what happened to the league. While she was injured, casual interest fell away. The core WNBA fan base stayed, but the surge of millions of new viewers who had followed Clark from Iowa into the pros simply stopped tuning in. The ratings trough during her absence speaks louder than any global Google ranking. That is a key point many critics feel Time magazine ignored when it reduced her influence to 5%, and then gave Wilson space to say that growth was inevitable with or without Clark. Aya Wilson's comments on history and the recipe. In the interview, Wilson defended her own accomplishments and emphasized that nothing Clark or the media say can erase her resume. On that front, she is correct. 3 MVP trophies, multiple titles, and Olympic success will always matter. But Wilson went further. She said her real issue was not with Clark personally, but with how people were losing the recipe and erasing the history of the WNBA's black stars. She argued that for a moment, the league's foundation had been ignored in favor of one newcomer, and that she did not like seeing earlier generations temporarily written out of the narrative. From one angle, that is a fair sentiment. Legends such as Lisa Leslie, Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops, Diana Taurasi, Candace Parker, and Tamika Catchings that carry the WNBA through lean years. Without them, there would be no platform for Clark to stand on. However, the way Wilson's remarks were packaged, alongside the 5% claim and the salvaging language, led many fans to read them as a veiled shy Clark, as if her popularity was somehow an attack on those who came before her. That framing also skips an uncomfortable truth about the league's long-term commercial performance. What 28 years of WNBA history actually looked like. The WNBA tipped off its first season in 1997. Between then and 2023, the league produced Hall of Fame-level talent, exciting playoff series, and multiple Olympic gold medals for the United States. It also, year after year, averaged modest television audiences. Just before Clark's rookie campaign, the league's typical national broadcast was drawing around 399,000 viewers. Those numbers were not rising dramatically. They were stable, but they were not signaling an imminent mainstream breakthrough. Across that 28-year window, no player, not Leslie, not Taurasi, not Parker, not Stewart, produced the kind of rating spike and cultural conversation that Caitlin Clark generated in one season. That does not diminish their greatness as athletes. It simply reflects how audience behavior changed when Clark entered the picture. So when Wilson says this was just a matter of time and that WNBA growth would have happened anyway, many neutral observers disagree. From a media business perspective, nothing in the data suggested that a $2.2 billion media rights deal was around the corner before Clark started selling out arenas and pulling in NBA-like cable numbers. Physical play, officiating, and the Indiana Fever factor. Another piece of fan frustration centers on how Clark was treated on the court compared with established stars, including Wilson. Throughout the 2024 season, viewers saw Clark take a level of contact that looked different from the whistles her opponents received. Drives to the rim ended with heavy body checks and no foul calls. Off-ball screens turned into shoulders to the chest. In several high-profile games, including a June 29th meeting between the Las Vegas Aces and the Indiana Fever, the broadcast teams themselves expressed surprise that obvious contact against Clark did not draw a whistle. At the same time, Wilson and other veterans appear to benefit from what many perceived as star calls. Slight touches near the lane produce free throws. The contrast did not go unnoticed by those tracking every Fever game. Critics now link that on-court experience to the narrative coming out of the Time article. They see a pattern in which Clark draws the most viewers, absorbs the hardest hits, and yet is portrayed as a marginal factor in the league's success. This matters particularly to Indiana fans because Clark is not just another player. She is the center of the Fever's rebuilding project. The franchise has been clear that it wants to build around her, and fans want to know whether the league, its referees, and its media partners are truly interested in protecting that investment. Mainstream recognition versus internal resentment. The deeper tension here is emotional as well as economic. Established WNBA players are rightfully proud of what they have built. They played in near-empty arenas, flew commercial in uncomfortable conditions, and kept the league alive when it was far from glamorous. Seeing a rookie walk in and instantly receive more endorsements and coverage than some veterans got in a decade is bound to create friction. At the same time, the hard reality is that Caitlin Clark's arrival changed the WNBA's negotiating power overnight. The league's new media rights deal $2.2 billion over 11 years, starting with the 2026 season, was hammered out after networks had fresh, undeniable proof that a Clark game could nearly triple average ratings. The previous deal was worth about $60 million per year. The new one sits near $200 million per year. That is a 233% increase in value. To pretend Clark's impact only accounts for 5% of that jump does not pass the basic smell test for anyone who works in sports business. None of this means Aya Wilson did not deserve recognition from Time. She is clearly one of the best athletes in the world. But it helps explain why so many fans reacted with frustration when that same feature minimized Clark's role and painted the surge of interest as little more than the inevitable result of long-term WNBA growth. Caitlin Clark's response: silence in golf. In the middle of all of this noise, Clark herself has chosen to stay almost completely silent. After the article blew up across social media, she did not publish a statement, did not reply in interviews, and did not engage in back and forths on television. Instead, she posted a series of photos on Instagram playing golf, with a caption about how being involved in other sports is good for her mind and body. That was it. For supporters, this is another sign of how difficult her position is. If she points to the ratings or the size of the media deal, she risks being accused of diminishing black pioneers and centering herself. If she says nothing, others are free to define her impact as whatever number suits their argument. 5%, 10%, a flash in the pan. So she stays quiet and lets the numbers speak. Where this leaves the WNBA. The bigger picture is that the WNBA is standing at a crossroads. On one side, it has a generational player whose games produce ratings that networks dream about. On the other, it has veterans who want respect for the decades they spent keeping the league alive. Those aims do not have to be in conflict. A league can honor its past and still acknowledge that a new face brought unprecedented attention. The danger comes when public comment suggests that recognition of Clark's impact is somehow an insult to the legacy of black women who built the WNBA. Time magazine framed its feature in a way that many feel sharpened that divide instead of bridging it. Aya Wilson's 5% remark, whether intended or not, reinforced the idea that some within the WNBA power structure remain deeply uncomfortable with crediting Caitlin Clark for the surge in popularity. Fans, especially those who follow Clark from Iowa to Indiana and then into the broader league, are now asking simple questions. If the player who fueled record viewership is treated this way publicly, what will that mean for how the league handles her going forward? Will future marketing campaigns truly embrace her, or will they keep her at arm's length to avoid internal friction? And how will that affect continued ratings growth, ticket sales, and the health of the media deal that pays everyone's salaries? The only certain thing is that this debate is not going away. As Clark returns from injury, as Indiana looks to surround her with better talent, and as the WNBA prepares to enter a new era under a far richer TV contract, the league will have to confront the gap between what the numbers show and what some of its most prominent voices are willing to say out loud. For now, the scoreboard is clear. When Caitlin Clark plays, WNBA ratings soar. When she sits, they fall. Whatever percentage you want to attach to that, it is far higher than 5.